Former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky. Let me start with you, Katie. What stands out immediately and most significantly to you?
Well, of course, the DOJ is going to try to.
Oh, they're saying all the documents were declassified. Trump declassified all of them in his mind. They are going with that. They're going with that. I can't believe it. They're going with that. They're going with all the documents were declassified in his mind. Oh my God.
The fact of the matter here is that I think
yes!
the words espionage, classified, SCI are being used without any sort of actual facts to support what he's supposed these documents. In my opinion, the fact that he had these documents in his possession is no crime at all, regardless of what Merrick Garland or the DOJ says.
Shannon, Donald Trump, former President Trump, actually tweeted to that. Number one, it was all declassified.
Number two, he gets to have these as a treat.
They could have had it at any time they wanted without playing politics and breaking into Mar-a-Lago. It was in a secured storage with an additional lock put on it as per the...
Okay, I need to mention something about the Espionage Act 793 that Fox News was not going to mention, so this is important for you guys to all understand. It doesn't matter if that document was declassified or not. Okay? For the record, it does not matter if that was even declassified. It's not, but it doesn't even fucking matter if Donald Trump declassified it or not. Okay? So they can fucking say like he declassified it in his mind or whatever the fuck all they want, all day, every day. But ultimately, for at least the most significant charge, it doesn't even matter if the documents were declassified or not. Okay? So just a reminder. Here it is. Friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein, offering this. Note that the prosecution under the Espionage Act does not require proof of espionage, just that the subject willfully retains classified materials and fails to deliver it upon official request. But also on top of that, I already ran the top of the hour ad break. Can Biden just say he reclassified them in his mind? There's also that. Except Biden doesn't have to reclassify those documents in his mind. He literally, personally did openly fucking make sure that the handoff, the rather symbolic handoff between the new president and former president did not happen in this circumstance. Normally, like Barack Obama, for example, Donald Trump even, I think, allowed Barack Obama to have access to classified information, as former presidents often are allowed to have. Brandon, on the other hand, cited security concerns, national security concerns, and did not do that regardless. So remember that. He declassified documents with his mind, the same energy as the girl is my girlfriend. We just haven't spoke or hung out at all. We shared eye contact. Yeah. And now that the search warrant has been released, now he's one. Wait, what the fuck? Bear in POV? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Stop. Now that the search warrant has been released, Lindsey Graham coming in hot with a new talking point. Where's the affidavit? We still need to see the affidavit. We've moved on. We've moved on from the search warrant. Now it's time to see the affidavit. Yeah, it's the fucking it's the long form. Now that the birth certificate has been released, it's time to see the long form birth certificate.
Material. It's not clear if staffers, first of all, if the president declassified all this material, but also whether staffers went in and made those notation changes on these documents. So there could be confusion over the status of these documents.
Lamau, were you saying she's a young woman? She's a bad lawyer? Yes, that's what I was saying. You caught me. I was being misogynistic. No, you fucking idiot. I was making a joke about her having two first names and also otherwise showing an incredibly poor performance thus far throughout this entire raid. But if you want to fucking believe that it was because I thought I was being misogynistic, then yes, go off, King. You got me.
FBI went in. What do you make of that?
Well, it does seem somewhat like a setup at this point. I mean, this was the president of the United States. Of course, he had access to classified and sensitive information. And any comparison to any other government employee is completely irrelevant to the president. The president is not bound by the same regulations and laws that any other government employee is when they have these security clearances. TS and SCI information can run the gamut from a lot of different topics. So it's really, I think, a fear factor sort of thing that the left and the media are trying to go after in terms of using these terms without any sort of substance to tell us what do they actually mean by that. He had access to classified documents. Did he declassify them? There's not a specific process for the classification authority, the president, to actually do that. Does he need to annotate on the document to indicate such? Likely, yes, but there's really no prescribed method he has to go through. So I think that we have a lot of big questions here about the actual criminal acts that they're saying he engaged in. And it's got to be much more than him just possessing information that they claim is classified.
Right. And Shannon, there's questions of whether this is now a criminal investigation. Is it a national security investigation? Where do we go from here, assuming maybe we never get a chance to see the affidavit?
Yeah, we might not. But what we do know is on the face of this warrant, what it says is you can go after any physical documents or records constituting evidence, contraband, fruits of crime, or other items illegally possessed in violation of, and then it has the different sections, which are gathering and transmitting or losing defense information, concealment, removal, or mutilation of government documents. There are all kinds of there are 3 different statutes that are outlined here, and they have real criminal implications. If you were convicted under these statutes, some of them 3 years in jail, 10 years in jail, one's up to 20 years in jail. These are serious allegations. They are the justification for the warrant. And until we see those underlying affidavits, if we ever do, or if the government decides to move forward with some kind of case, we're just not going to know what that's based on. But these are real federal statutes with real criminal penalties.
Of course, I'm not sure what the binders of photos, the handwritten notes, and maybe the information from the president of France, if it's covered on any of those things. But Jonathan, there was also a report, the Washington Post, talking about nuclear materials or nuclear information. The whole thing has now become just a wild game of speculation. How important is it that the DOJ and the AG somehow reel this in? I mean, it seems like the ball is in their court to remove some of this, because this sort of speculation hanging over this nation can't be good.
Well, that's what really highlights what we don't know. TSSCI is a very high classification. If there was classified material in the former president's possession, he was not allowed to have that material after he left the presidency, and the government has every right to retrieve that material. But there are a lot of questions, not just about the status of the material, but the knowledge of the former president. And then you have all of these leaks that are being attributed to the Justice Department. And that's one of the reasons why it's not an easy thing for an attorney general to order the release of an affidavit. But this is a unique, historic moment. And whether for good or for bad, this raid has caused a great deal of concern among citizens, in fact, a belief among many, that this is just another targeting of Donald Trump. That
I wonder why that concern happened.
FBI, it really undermines.
Perhaps it's because you guys are making it seem like it was bullshit.
The Attorney General needs to go against what I think is his personal inclination, and to say, release it. Release the affidavit.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite conservative argument. Is like, they first set the scene for people to get fucking whipped up into a frenzy, and then they turn around and go, oh man, the FBI really overstepped on their boundaries here by causing so much concern that they may be operating in a political way. It's like, bro, you did that. You did that. Jonathan Turley, you are the guy who's been on Fox News non-fucking stop for 72 hours since the raid started, saying exactly this. You are part of the reason, motherfucker. What do you mean?
It's ridiculous to ignore the troubling aspects of that situation. And I think Attorney General Garland's got to do much, much more than the type of boilerplate statement that he made yesterday.
Shannon, I mentioned a Donald Trump tweet. Former President Trump also added that they could have had at any time this information they wanted, and it includes long ago. He says all they had to do with that was ask. But there's another part to this. The bigger problem is what they are going to do with the 33 million pages of documents, many of which are classified. That
they asked that they didn't give it. They asked that they didn't give it.
Today, Martha played 3 sound bites together of James Comey on the information that Hillary Clinton had on her server, and he concluded that it was extreme carelessness in handling top secret information, but added, we cannot find a case for bringing criminal charges on her, despite the fact that it was extremely careless and she did have these top secret documents. So are we looking at a different sort of legal precedent here?
I think that the optics of this are very difficult for the FBI and the DOJ. And all of us on this panel will remember when this was going on with the former Secretary of State, she was allowed.
Also, like, they didn't have to ask. There is that element as well. Like, they didn't have to ask. They could have retrieved it aggressively from the jump. But they did. And they you know, they didn't give it back. So of course, like, yeah, you have to do that.
People were treated that it gets to the dangerous place of worrying about partisan perception or politics entering into these institutions that as Americans, we don't ever want to have to doubt them. But people can easily point to these other cases that were very high profile and say, how come the treatment has been so different? I mean, there are political ramifications of this, and it's naive to think that this would have been done in a low-key way. That Newsweek reporting, which again, you know, we don't know about the sourcing on it, but it points to senior DOJ officials and says they thought they could do this in a low-key way. I don't know how anyone thinks that you can carry out a raid on a former president's house and a warrant that's based on federal criminal statutes and think that it's going to go under the radar. Right.
Or why this sense of urgency? Why stop negotiating? Why not issue another subpoena? You know, again, take
extra. Oh, so they did ask. So you're admitting that they asked because earlier you said they didn't ask.
The way we could do this.
What the fuck? 3 seconds ago he said they didn't ask. Well, they did. They issued a subpoena, and they didn't follow through on it. And then they asked again? What do you mean? Well, why didn't they ask twice? Why didn't they say, pretty pink, please, with a fucking a cherry on top? That is the legally speaking, that is the thing that they should have done. They should have said, pretty pink, please. And actually, they didn't do that. It's called the third time's the charm defense. It's a very famous legal defense that they should be using in this circumstance, as a matter of fact. That's really fucked up. He gets a mulligan on this, I think.
Search was executed properly. So I don't think we'll ever really get an answer to that in terms of, is this a pretext? Probably. I mean, I'm sure they're hoping that they come across other information that's helpful. I wouldn't be surprised by that.